welcome back, one and all. Welcome back to the book club. I'm TrevimusPrime, and I'm joined by
Zerfall.
And we are going to attempt to slam through the last 7 chapters of Big Sleep. This is going to be interesting. Before we start, these chapters, if you were to say, like a lot of books, if you were to say to me, so what happened in the end? I would say I don't know. The last chapter is really fucking memorable, and I think so with a couple of chapters leading up to that. But this comes so left field. It's sort of like Raymond Chandler went, this isn't long enough. I need more plot twists. And that's how it came across to me. I mean, I really enjoyed the end. I thought it was fucking bonkers.
Well, and if you look back too, it does have, there are hints along the way that no one would really put together, but they're there so that at the end you go, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, but very loosely. I mean, we'll hit it when we hit it. So, really, we're starting from chapter 25.
Okay, I'm back way too far here.
Okay, I'll start us off. Marlowe wakes up. He's disgusted by women, really. He's had 2 women throw themselves upon him, and because he's a fine, upstanding gentleman, he hasn't partook. We then end up with him spotting this grey Plymouth that's been following him, and it's parked around the corner. He manages to confront this guy, and his name escapes me off the top of my head. But he confronts him and says, look, I'm going up to my office. If you want to bloody have a chat, just get a move on and come see me. Because the money for the Sternwood case has actually arrived now. He's got that $500, so things really are settling down. The buzzer rings. Oh yeah, here we go. The guy's name's Harry Jones. So Jones is bloody linked to Agnes, and Agnes was the woman that worked in Geiger's bookstore, the girlfriend of Joe Brody, and she's now hooked up with this guy.
Yes. I guess behind every crook is an even more crooked woman?
I can understand vaguely why she's doing this, though, because she's lost her job. The guy that she thought was going to look after is dead.
Yep.
She's a bit fucked. But luckily, she's got information. And she basically says, look, if you pay me... I'm sure she says she wants... Yeah, here we go, $200. So not a lot, really, but... Well,
that's a lot back then.
I was going to say, it's almost half of his bloody paycheck. She wants that money, and Marlowe sort of presses the matter and agrees to, take the money and get this information. Because she's got information about Eddie Mars's wife. Is it revealed that she knows where she is at this point, or does it just says, I've got information?
I believe that she says that she knows, and he's like, well, tell me. And he's like, I don't know what it is. You got to talk to her. She won't tell you without the money, sort of thing. She's playing it very close to her chest because she doesn't want to have this also turn bad on her.
Of all the people to go to, Marlowe, the guy that punched her in the face?
Well, I mean, he's the guy that she knows is kind of looking for Reagan and has been asking around about this sort of information. So he's probably the only person that would pay that she knows of to get this information.
You could have gone for Sternwood.
I don't know that she has the contacts that would be able to get in and talk to him.
No, that is very true. And this guy that she's managed to hook up with now seems to be a bit of a small, shy, weedy fellow. He's not... I just said his name a minute ago. Not Geiger, the other one.
Harry.
No, the one before that. Brody. He's not Brody. He's not this...
Oh, okay.
Brody came across as this confident man.
Yeah.
And now she's lost him and she's got this thing. Marlowe decides to go to where they've agreed to meet, which is Puss Walgreen's office. Unfortunately, someone else turns up.
Yes.
And I love this guy. His name is Canino. Or, Canino, how would you say that? Would you say Canino, or... I don't know what your Italian's like.
I would say Canino.
Canino. The guy dresses in brown. It's a very odd. It's a very odd description. The guy wears a brown suit. He's got brown hair, I believe, and he just looks dead behind the eyes. But this guy is basically Eddie Mars's hitman or solver, like his muscle.
He erases things for him.
And this guy, Marlowe doesn't get directly involved, but he hides. And this guy basically interrogates this Jones fellow, and Jones commits suicide, so he doesn't give away the location of Agnes. That's bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Was it suicide, or did he get killed by him with the stuff?
No, actually, I think he drank it. Because I remember rightly, he has a glass and he hands a glass to Canino.
Oh, and then, do you know what? I think he was trying to get Canino to drink it too. He was like, "Yeah, we'll get, if I die, at least you're coming with me," sort of thing. Because he might have been trying to, at first, sip it and be like, "Yeah, everything's all good."
See, I hadn't thought about that. I just literally thought he'd gone for the suicide route to stop Canino from finding anything out. But no, you are probably right, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
He was going for a double hit. Marlowe tries to ring the address of what Jones gave to Canino.
Yes, and it's the wrong address.
But then the phone rings a couple of seconds later and it's Agnes anyway.
Yep. Very Deus Ex Machina.
You fancy man. But, I mean, it sort of does work out because he doesn't actually say to her that Jones is dead, but they arrange for the meeting and she gets her money, he gets the info he wants.
Yes, and I think he tells her she needs to scamper.
Well, that's pretty much chapter 27 when you look at it.
Yep. And then he ends up taking off to go to this zone where Geiger's wife is at. He's trying to track her down, but on the way there, apparently there's a bank robbery. And the police or somebody put tacks down. Not tacks, but...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Things down to pop the tires so that when they try to take off, they can catch the criminals. But when they get swept off the road, they don't quite sweep them off far enough. And as he goes a little off the road, he loses a tire.
Well, this is the problem now. He's going to go do the big confrontation, and he's lost his escape route, essentially. He can't just case the place out. He's now actually firmly involved. He's committed to what he's got to do now.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of embarrassing, too. You're like, I'm on my way to the final big plot thing going on in a book, and I got a flat tire.
Is that what Philip Marlowe thought at that particular time? Come on, Chandler!
Oh, come on. So it's funny because he ends up going to there's a little garage shop nearby, and he goes to it, and Canino's there.
Sorry, you throw me with that. I'm just now imagining that Philip Marlowe is indeed self-aware. So, for example, when both the Sternwood girls came onto him, when he's tearing that bed apart, he's literally cursing Raymond Chandler's name at the top of his lungs. Why did you write this? But yeah, no, he goes to this garage, Canino's there.
Yes, and he thinks that he's got him... Well,
he thinks he's got him fooled, really.
Yeah, and he's getting him to repair the tire and everything, and he's talking to him. I mean, not a whole lot happens there other than Marlowe falls for a trap.
Not a lot really happens in all these chapters, as daft as it sounds. It's very quick. I mean, I don't know when you read this. I was able to burn through this in a night.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's sort of like, okay, this happens. Oh, that's...
I got pretty far the way through it, and then I was closer to being done than I thought, and I was like, I can't stay up any later, and I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and the next day I started reading it, and I was like, oh, that was not a lot left.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had to go back and reread all of this stuff, because it's a big blur the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the strange thing is that Marlowe thinks he's got one over on Canino.
Yep.
I mean, he already knows this guy's smart. I mean, the question is, how did he even know that Jones knew where Agnes was, who knew where Eddie Mars's wife was? If the only person that he told was Marlowe.
Well, I think that part of what happened was... So, Marlowe tells Eddie Mars that this Plymouth's following him. And then suddenly the guy that drives that Plymouth is getting a visit from Canino, who's like, so why are you following Marlo around? Also, where's this
You
girl?
have a point. Yeah, no, you do have a point.
So it's definitely Mars sticking his fingers into things, because he did seem upset when he found out that this Grey Plymouth was following Marlo around, and he must have known whose Plymouth it was.
And he also maybe must have known that this guy did actually have some information.
Mm-hmm.
And that no one would care except Marlo.
Yeah.
I mean, when he falls into this trap, does Canino hit him with a tire iron or something? I can't quite remember.
Oh, no, it's literally a tire, I think. If I remember correctly, Canino doesn't hit him. The other guy, the mechanic that's actually in the shop, he's like, go fix his tires for him. And he goes and he gets the tire, brings the tire back, takes off the flat tire, puts on a new tire, and then picks up the tire and hits Marlo with it. It's like they're really trying to sell that they're changing this tire.
But doesn't that sort of... It swings the book's tone. It makes it a bit more slapstick, don't you think?
It does.
Of all the things to use, a tire.
Well, and part of it is that it catches him really off guard, because he says he doesn't even... he doesn't pick up on the sort of... Oh, it says right here, the teamwork must have been very nice. I saw no signal, no glance of meaning, no gesture that might have been a special import. The gaunt man had stiffened... the gaunt man had the stiffened tube high in the air, staring at it, as if he was looking for holes or something. I think he patched the tires not so much as replaced it. He half turned his body, took one quick long step, and slammed it down over my head and shoulders. A perfect ringer. So it doesn't. He might not even hit him in the head with it. He just like puts a tire over him. He's stuck with a tire around him now. That is actually very slapstick.
It's unexpected of all the things to happen. But already that brings us to chapter 28. There's only 4 more chapters left, and we know. Well, obviously, me and you know, but by this point, you know the way it's going to go. I mean, when I read this, I was still expecting Reagan.
Yep.
We know, and we will talk about that, why that's not the case. But we get to chapter 28, he's tied up, he's handcuffed, and Eddie Mars' wife's there.
Yep, and she seems to think that, because Canino's a nice guy, other than the fact that he keeps her in this house all the time.
Yeah, hasn't, she thinks that Eddie's just sent her away to hide, doesn't she?
Yeah, and she doesn't seem to think that the guys would hurt him at first, and then he's like, really? Have you seen this guy? Does he not seem like the type of guy that might kill somebody? And then she kind of thinks it over, and she ends up letting him go. But Reagan's not there at all.
No. I like the fact that Marlo kisses this one as well. It's like, God, man, you've just met her. Are you trying to piss as many people off as possible?
Well, I think he feels like the knight in the stained glass window now.
But it does take us to chapter 29, which is action-packed, but not. I actually bothered to watch... I didn't watch all of it. I watched the movie version of this section just to sort of compare. It's very different.
Oh, yes?
It's actually quite boring in comparison. We're probably not going to watch the movie version now because it actually was quite disappointing from what I saw. So I would just completely scrap that off.
Well, that's why you're always supposed to watch the movie first, then read the books. The book's always better.
Yeah, I mean, on this case, I just thought, because there was a link of it on YouTube, so I thought, all right, we'll watch the last 10 minutes of the film, we'll watch it, see what happens. Yeah, no. What I quite like about this is Marlo runs out of the house towards the highway, everything's good, but now whose car does he hide in? Was it Canino's?
Yeah, Canino pulls back up to the house. He sees him pull up. He goes in, and then when he realizes that Marlo's gone, he shuts the lights off and pretends that nobody's home.
But Canino stupidly leaves his actual keys in the car.
Well, I mean, it's the 1939, right?
Well, if you're Marlo, are you thinking, right, I'm going to escape? Because he doesn't, and when they grabbed Marlowe, why didn't they check to see if he had any guns on him?
Well, he didn't have any guns on him at the time.
Where did this gun come from, then?
He gets it when he goes back to his car.
Oh, of course he bloody does.
So he gets the gun when he goes back to the car. He comes back. He throws some pebbles at the window to try to get, what's his name to come over, but he doesn't even come to the window to look to see what it was or anything.
No.
But then he's got a great idea. He starts up the car like he's trying to get away. And, but he doesn't actually stay in the car. He starts it up, hides behind it, and Canino shoots a few shots into the car. And Marlowe does some great acting, and he lets out a gurgly scream that he lets fade out, and then makes it sound like he's slumped over.
Exaggerated death scream.
Yeah.
Eddie Mars' wife actually even goes one step further and actually lies that she can see Mars, like
yeah,
because
he holds her like a human shield, right?
Yeah,
and brings her out, and that's probably partially when she realizes how much of a not good character this man is, because he's using her as a human shield. So, she yells, "I can see him behind the wheel," and so he starts shooting up the car again. Once he takes care of what he thinks is Marlowe, he starts coming over, and Marlowe has his own little "do I feel lucky" punk moment where I know he fired 6 times, but maybe he reloaded inside the house. Maybe he has an automatic. I don't know. Could have a lot of bullets, could have none left.
Do you think that's a bit anticlimactic, though?
Maybe a little bit.
They've built up this... I mean, admittedly, they haven't built Canino up over many chapters, but they built him up to at least be an impressive force. But yeah, no, it's a little bit anticlimactic, because they do build this guy up to be the only real bad guy of the whole book, really. I mean, Geiger's not actually... I wouldn't say that bad a guy in comparison, and this guy is only in it for 3 chapters and then dies. Or 4 chapters, sorry.
Yeah, that's true. I guess Mars is a pretty bad dude too, but he doesn't actually do any...
He doesn't do anything, really, does he?
He just pays to get other people to do these things.
Yeah, and they don't really make... There's no one... This isn't a black and white story. You know, there's no really good or really bad characters. They're all a bit in between.
Yeah.
At that point, you think this is all wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the second time in this fucking book where we've got some sort of closure. But the next chapter, we end up at the bloody Missing Persons Bureau. Marlowe's talking to the captain about Rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Marlowe's actually got in trouble for taking things into his own hands this whole time, but they still sort of let him off.
Yeah, they're at this point they're like pretty much if you well, doesn't really say it right now, but they're pretty much like, okay, yeah, you had to kill that other guy. Okay, yeah, I guess you had to kill this guy too, and you helped us figure something out. But we're tired of it. If you do it again, we're not gonna gloss it over this time.
No, exactly. I mean, what I quite like about this is the fact that he then gets a phone call saying, "Look, you need to come see the general."
Mm-hmm.
And the general is annoyed that Marlowe went to the Missing Persons Bureau, and I can't say that right tonight. Missing Persons Bureau. There we go. And it actually offers him even more money to try and find Reagan.
Well, he seems really angry at first, and Marlowe's like, "Well, I assumed that you actually did want me to find Reagan, and so I looked into it." And he's like, "That's really presumptuous of you." And he's like, "Well, this is why I thought that." And he's like, "Okay, well, so what? You're right. You want more money? I'll give you more money. Go find him."
Marlowe does actually agree, sort of, to help him, but does he actually take any money?
He doesn't, because I don't think it's upfront money. I think he says, "I'll pay you $1,000 if you can tell me that he's okay and alive somewhere."
But I think Marlowe already knows. He's already figured out, maybe in his head.
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd, because there's been no inclination to actually give him that information.
Well, if you were as good a detective as he is, you would have figured it out by now.
If that was as good a detective as he is, I probably would have just shot the person in the first place.
No, he can't do that because they won't gloss it over this time.
Big sleep in 5 seconds.
We
should get on to 31, really.
Yes.
Because 31 is 31 feels like a kick in the teeth. Because it wraps the story up properly, but it feels a bit... It's so detached from the rest of the story. For me, personally, anyway.
Yeah.
Basically, he flirts with Carmen, he gives Carmen her gun back, or no, she flirts with him, and he goes, "Oh, teach me how to shoot." So, they go down. It turns out that Carmen's a fucking nutcase.
Yeah, they head to the abandoned wells that were mentioned earlier in the book, where he tries to set up a can for her to shoot. And when he turns around, holy crap, she's frothing at the mouth, so angry, she starts unloading the gun right at him. He's too close to dodge. What's going to happen? Marlowe's too good of a detective for you. He filled the gun with blanks.
How the fuck did he figure that out?
I don't know. I feel like he should have filled the gun with blanks even if he didn't think she was going to shoot him, because she seems a little bit off anyways.
Yeah, just how the hell do you get to this thing as, oh, I knew this would happen?
Because back in the day, this is what epilepsy was like.
Are you suggesting that they didn't know enough about it, so they assumed this is how it worked?
I don't know, because he's like, oh yeah, she has epilepsy. That's why she went crazy and started shooting people. And it's like, I don't think that seizures make you literally get angry and try to shoot people.
I mean, they do... Well, let's cut a long story short. Basically, he says that this happens because of men rejecting her. So if a man rejects her, she goes a bit nuts. Reagan rejected her, and it just so happened they did this exact same thing where it was like, teach me how to shoot, and she shot Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
But putting that to I still don't understand how the hell he came to that conclusion.
Well, I think when he realized that Reagan didn't run off with this Mars's wife, Silverwig, he may have come to the conclusion that, okay, if he didn't run off with her, that means he wasn't the type of man to cheat. And yet there was this sister who would constantly be flirting with him because they live in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he probably saw how she reacted when he rejected her the first time. If she probably had a gun that day, she would have, in her hissy fit, I guess that's why they call them hissy fits, eh? In her hissy fit, she probably would have unloaded the gun at him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He almost had to throw her directly out of the house to get rid of her, right? So I can see how the logic works. I don't know that it's realistic to say someone would put that together.
You've got to call bullshit sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, but like, it's not as bad as Encyclopedia Brown.
I mean, at least it wraps it up, don't get me wrong, and I was happy about it because it did finally pull everything together.
Yeah. And it seems to mention that she doesn't seem to remember the things that happen when she's having her fits.
What is it? She turns around and says, "I wet myself."
Yeah, she kind of eyes suddenly open. She passed out after her seizure / anger management issues. And she wakes up and she sits up and says, "What happened?" And he's like, "Nothing, why?" "Oh, yes, it did. I wet myself."
Dear Raymond Chandler's corpse, this is not how epilepsy works.
No, but that was an awesome scene, though. "Yes, it did. I wet myself. I know something happened because I peed my pants."
It's what the hell, Raymond Chandler.
I can understand that maybe at the time they may have classified a lot more things as epilepsy that really weren't.
Yeah. I mean, she is mentally ill.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, with ignoring the fact that she has the mind of a child, ignoring the fact that she's obviously some sort of sex pest.
Yep.
We then have the violent bursts of anger.
Mm-hmm. And the lost memory.
Do you believe the lost memory?
I do believe the lost memory because she probably know why she wet herself if she went to...
No, okay. When I read that, I just thought she might be doing that on purpose, but no, I guess maybe you are right that perhaps she is just doing it because she doesn't know.
Well, it may be like getting really drunk, you do know what you're doing at the time, kind of. Your inhibitions may be gone, but then in the morning you may not have perfect recollection.
No, fair enough. I mean, this does take us on to the very last chapter of the book.
Yes.
He confronts Vivian because Vivian knew all about it.
Yes.
Vivian contacted Canino. Canino disposed of the body.
Well, she contacted Mars, and Mars got Canino.
Oh, sorry. But why... Oh, sorry, excuse me. Why does that... Oh, no, that explains why Eddie Mars has got a hold on her, why she keeps winning at the casino and he keeps robbing it back.
Well, and it seems that he is... he's slightly connected to Geiger, and pretty much what happened was he was playing the slow game with Vivian. Eventually, she was going to inherit all the general's money. And he wanted to get that money, but he couldn't yet because she didn't have any money, so he was slowly getting a little bit of money from her, and she wasn't doing anything about it because there's not much she could do. But moreover, he got tired of waiting. So he got Geiger to do this little scam on him to see if he'd pay Geiger, and if he would pay Geiger, that would mean that the general knew about Reagan, and he could put the twist on him instead. So that sort of backfired everything, because that's what led to Marlowe being brought in.
What's slightly insulting about this, though, is she actually paid Mars and Canino the 15 grand that Reagan always had to dispose of him.
Yeah, and then they still decided to blackmail her.
I mean, this all results in Marlowe saying, look, Vivian, take bloody Carmen away. She's mentally ill. She needs to be hospitalised. Get her out of here.
Yeah, and he pretty much says, if you don't take her out of here, take her to a place where she'll be safe, right? And sort of help take care of her instead of playing like nothing's going wrong. I am going to report her to the police. It's like, you've got 10 days to get out of town. At the end of that 10 days, I will report you if you're still here.
And at the end of the day, they've got to think of their father. Because he's an ill man, and to be honest, I actually do think that Marlowe's just literally just doing this for him now. You know, get hospitalised and get the hell away. You're more trouble than you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you know, Marlowe drives off, not really smug. He reflects on it all. He does actually say that he never sees Mars's wife ever again.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's kind of funny too is that when Marlowe is talking to Vivian, at first he seems to be playing like he's going to blackmail her too. Right? He's like, I know all this stuff. And she's like, I suppose you want money. And he says, how much money? And she goes, $15,000? And that's when he's like, all about how he's not about money. If he was about money, he wouldn't be charging $25 a day plus expenses, and a whole bunch of other stuff. He would be doing something other than being a detective.
If I was more cynical, I would actually say that perhaps Vivian wouldn't have given all the money to Canino and Mars, but I'm past the point of thinking that there's another twist in this. You know, I mean, what did you think of the book?
Well, I enjoyed the book. I feel like if one's going to read this book, it probably would be better to read it all in a weekend.
Yeah.
Although it did lend itself well to reading small bits because the things that happened weren't overly complicated. Every once in a while, it was a little bit, what really just happened? But you could read small chunks and still put the book together. But it is a quick story. It ends pretty quick. I mean, it's 210. I have 210 pages in my book, and they're relatively large print, right? It's not a heavy read by any means. So, it's really good for that, but also it does. I mean, how long did it take us to read this? 3 months? 2 months?
Or
4 months?
It's taken 7 episodes.
So
admittedly,
that's at least. It took at least 2 months if it wasn't for all the breaks and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had, I think, a month gap between episode 1 and episode 2.
Yeah. So, that being said, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was well written.
Yeah.
It got to the point a lot more often than other books that have been read in the past and discussed on the internet, without naming names.
Yeah, there is that.
There's a lot less talking in circles and that sort of thing, and I mean, it's a pretty refreshing book to read. It's actually something you might like. I read a lot of high fantasy books and stuff like that.
And erotic fiction. I know you're a fan of that.
Oh yeah, but I only read the short stories.
High class erotic fiction as well.
Yes, 50 Shades of Awesome. But no, the book is refreshing. So if you read a lot of like very long books, this is a good change of pace because it's not just a shorter book, but it's also a well-written shorter book that you don't have to go into all the details of how magic works in this world or how technology works in the future or anything like that, right? The world is a world that's close enough to modern day that you don't even really have to take into account the little changes. We talked about the difference in how much money costs and everything, but
yeah,
even then, the shock of someone having $15,000 on them, sure, that's the same as someone having $150,000 on them today, but still, $15,000 is a lot of money. You're not like, oh, he's carrying around just chump change, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they were like, oh, this guy carried $50 on him all the time. Oh, wow, $50. Who would expect someone to carry 25 pounds?
Personally, okay, so I enjoyed it. I know I'm being really cynical, but you know what I'm like. I slam into everything that I like.
Yeah.
Because someone has to. I just feel that perhaps this would have been better as a short story, and that all the plot twists weren't necessary. The actual story about Geiger and Geiger's boyfriend and Joe Brady, I liked all that because it was a lot more connected. I don't feel the Reagan angle was necessarily needed at all.
No. But I mean, to be fair, he was pushing it from the very beginning of the novel.
He was, but do you think he went into this when he wrote it knowing how he was going to write this? Or do you think he perhaps wrote this main story? Yeah, maybe.
Well, I'll say, did you watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
Apparently, they knew the ending the whole time.
Bullshit.
Which I can believe, and maybe it was a similar sort of thing to this, where he knew how he was going to end it.
Yeah.
But he didn't know exactly how he was going to get there. So that's why when you come close to the end of the books, things sort of seemed a little rushed and stuff. He's like, oh, I got to connect the dots now.
We can be slightly lenient on this because it is the first book in the Philip Marlowe series.
That's true too, and it's his first novel that's not made for magazines. So he may have still been writing in that sort of mindset.
No, I mean, if you actually look at it, this does work really well in that serialized format with the episodes each week. But you have, in the end of the day, you've got your start thing of Reagan and you end with Reagan. Now, if this had... I would actually maybe argue either as a short story then, or maybe elaborated a bit further.
Yeah.
We perhaps could have done with a few more chapters, just setting this all up a bit nicely. Maybe even just a bit more to link Carmen with Reagan.
Yeah, that could be true.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, maybe that's just me being finicky. And I'm not saying I didn't like the story. I actually thought the actual book was really good. Mm-hmm. But it's another one of those where you look at it and you have to sort of go, this has flaws. Mm-hmm. Well, at least from my point of view.
Too, if they had Carmen lash out at more people that she didn't have a right to be lashing out at. Because most of the time, up until she lashes out at Marlowe, most of the time, it wasn't the sort of, oh, you snubbed me when I wanted to take you home, so I'm killing you. It was the sort of, hey, I know you have naked pictures of me that you're trying to blackmail me with, so I'm going to kill you. That makes a little more sense for back then, you know?
I mean, I think even, you know, when she storms in on Joe Brody and has a gun?
Yeah, she's all like, you put my pictures on ex-girlfriend's websites. And then Marlowe's like, which website was it he put it on? Is it .com or .ca?
It's .biz. But, I mean, even then, if she'd been a bit more snarly and if she had, at the end of that encounter, gone, what have I just done? Mm-hmm. That would have maybe lent itself a bit more.
Yeah.
Overall, then, would you say it has stood the test of time and it's a must-read? Or would you say it's only really good if you are into this sort of genre? Or none of the above, or is something else?
I think it's somewhere a little in the middle. I'm not actually. I don't read a lot of detective novels and whatnot, and I'm
No.
not the hugest fan of the genre. But I enjoyed the book, so I think it has stood the test of time quite a bit. I don't think it's in my top 100 must read books. I don't even know what is in that number, but I don't think this one would probably make the cut. But that being said, it probably is. It's not something I regret reading in the least.
No, I mean, I'm assuming like last time's book, Neuromancer, wouldn't be in your top 10 either.
No, probably not.
Is that because we have pointed out the flaws of it, though?
It could be. It could be when you're reading a book and you're not just enjoying it. Perhaps this book would be a better read if you were just reading the book for leisure.
Yeah, I mean, for example, Neuromancer I enjoyed a lot more when we weren't pulling it apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth pulling these things apart and actually holding Raymond Chandler's dead corpse to account. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go away, we're going to hold a seance, and we're not only going to insult him, but we're going to insult other dead authors, because we can. Which actually links us into a special episode we're going to do a one-off on, doesn't it?
Yes.
Another dead author who we're going to insult, and we're going to piss so many people off by doing that. I look forward to it. I look forward to calling him a racist bastard as well. So we're going to do a special one-off on the Call of Cthulhu. That's going to be great. So if you like Lovecraftian horror, we're going to ruin it for you. And we will. Have you ever read Call of Cthulhu?
I've not.
Neither have I. And I've already done a lot of research on Lovecraft, and I cannot wait to rip into this. I really can't. Alright then, shall we finish it there?
Sounds good.
Alright then, I've been TrevimusPrime.
I'm Zerfall.
And join us next time when we will completely slag off H.P. Lovecraft.
See ya.
See ya.